Hey everyone, how's it going? Do you guys remember the mullet peacemaker that I reviewed not too long ago? When I did that, I mentioned that the parts for this bike were handpicked and most of them are XTRs, including the XTR pedals. Now, I did a review of the XTR pedals not too long ago, but many of you said that the XTs would actually be a better value or a much better value. So why don't we take a closer look at these and see how they compare next to the XTRs. And I'm going to start by saying that these XTRs have been used for a few months. You see a few battle scars around here. They work perfectly fine as you would expect. And some of you refer to this tiny little gasket here next to the axle. I'm going to take a look at that later on. And on the first look, we have to admit that there is not much visual difference between the XT here on the left and the XTR on the right. I mean, the branding is nowhere to be found here on the XTR. It's here under your foot. On the XT, you have it here and you have Shimano written on the axle, but honestly, who's going to notice that? On both pedals, the details are here on the other side, so you're going to see the actual part number specified, and you can see here that these are made in Malaysia and the XTRs are actually made in Japan, so that would be one main difference between the two. The actual SPD cleat mechanism seems to be the same in both, is attached to the platform in exactly the same way. And yes, the platform has slightly different graphic design, but otherwise has exactly the same dimension. Axle length is the same on both, so the same Q factor. And we are talking about 55 millimeter to here, the middle of your cleat, and overall 90 millimeters or 9 centimeters length. As for the width of this pedal, that's about 95 millimeters, and again, those dimensions are identical on both pedals. Stack height of the two pedals differs slightly. This is 17.7 millimeters. This is pretty much 17 millimeters, so no noticeable difference. And the spindles are locked in place by this locking nut. Is the same on both, even though the finish of the XTR spindle is different and the locking nut seems to be a bit smaller compared to what XT uses. You can see the tightening torque value for this lock nut being 10 Newton meters, and you can fully disassemble these and service them. There's a couple of tiny bearings right here in the middle of the pedal, and again, that's identical to what XTR uses. There's a small difference though between the XTR and XT when it comes to how they seal the internals of the pedal here. On the XTR, you have this little O-ring or rubber seal that many of you commented on in my review of the XTR. If you check the discussions in that video review of the XTR, you're going to see that some would recommend just cleaning this using oil, all kind of things that worked. So thank you all that participated in that discussion. With the XT, you don't have to worry about that because again, there is no rubber seal over here. However, these pedals seem to be sealed pretty well just with grease. I mean, I've been using pedals, Shimano SPD pedals for a long time, never had any issues with them whatsoever. How do you know which pedal is left, which one is right? Here, right on the axle, you're gonna have L or R for right. So other details will be exactly the same. You use an 8 millimeter Allen to install these. If you look at the adjustment here for your cleat retention, this uses clicks and it uses a 3 millimeter Allen key as opposed to 2.5 millimeter on the XTR. And just like with the XTR, pedals come with the SH51 single release cleat as opposed to the SH56 that you can buy afterwards. This is what's called the multi-release SPD cleat from Shimano. One incentive for getting XTR components is usually weight. And you can see the 197 grams of this XTR M9120. As opposed to that, the XT is 215 grams. So we're talking 18 grams difference between the two. The set of pedals is 430 grams. This is 35 grams more than the XTR pedal set. Interestingly, these new XTs are about 26 grams heavier than the previous generation, the 8020 pedals, the ones launched with the 11-speed drivetrains. Price of this is about 2/3 of the price of the XTR. Otherwise, they seem to be identical and you're sacrificing 35 grams. on the trail, you're definitely not going to feel the extra 30 grams. And by the way, for those of you having issues with XTR seals, XT doesn't use one, and in my limited use of this, it doesn't seem to provide any issues whatsoever. In use, clipping on the more XC oriented SPD pedals from Shimano is very natural to me. I can find that cleat right away no matter what. In contrast, when moving to these pedals with the platform, I sometimes struggle to find a cleat. There's other surfaces around the cleat, so it doesn't really channel your shoe in the right spot. Nevertheless, I got used to it. I can live with that. Not really a big deal. So what do you guys think? What kind of trail pedals do you use? XT, XTRs, or third-party manufacturers? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you found it useful. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys!